every day there's a fire hose of directives and new policies coming out. And so this just got lost in the hubbub of yesterday.
Jim, before we talk about America and American politics, I must ask you for your thoughts and your feelings on the Washington air disaster that we've seen. I mean, in the city there, for the people of Washington, it is a shocking thing to happen.
It is shocking. And, Washingtonians can be a pretty hard-bitten group. Nothing phases us. We live in a constant crisis mode. But this really hit close to home because we use that airport all the time. We see the helicopters, particularly the Marines and the Army. A lot of the helicopters crisscross Washington. Having a collision like that at night over the Potomac just struck everyone. Our iPhones just lit up as people were exchanging information. And it really reminded everyone of another disaster that we had in 1982, where an Air Florida plane plunged into the Potomac. Very similar to this. It wasn't a midair collision, but it was icing on the wings. But it reminded everyone of that. And so in the midst of the Trump putting this town on its head anyway, we have this crash, and it just has really affected everyone pretty deeply.
Yeah, I mean, you're referring there to Donald Trump's message on social media, just commenting on how this should have been presented. I mean, it breaks the protocol of not engaging in discussion about how a thing like this happens before there's been some kind of investigation. I hear that point. And watching it from here, the details, the sights are so moving, Jim. I mean, the news of, well, so many young skaters. I mean, everyone killed, every casualty is of equal weight, but that sort of thing just brings the thing home so much more vividly to so many people.
It really does. It's something that reminds us. It makes you hug your children closer, if you will, after something like this. You might be a deputy assistant secretary of defense, or a colonel, or a general, or a congressperson, but suddenly we're all equal now. In a disaster like this, and you just want to spend time with your family, realizing how precious and how quickly life can end.
Yes, and just lastly on this, we see the pictures and learn how common it is for military helicopters to be filling the sky, sharing airspace with commercial airliners in the way that we see in Washington. I've seen nothing like it, certainly on this side of the Atlantic. It does seem remarkable.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, just in London, Heathrow is pretty far away, and the RAF doesn't have a lot of bases near London. But you're absolutely right. We have military facilities inside of Washington, D.C. There's Bowling, there's Fort Myer, there's Fort Belvoir, and those are Army facilities. But there's others as well. Andrews Air Force Base, and of course National Airport. Reagan National Airport is in the center, really, of the Washington D.C. area, and it's just when you come outside just during the day, you look up, and the numbers of aircraft and helicopters you see are really surprising.
Yeah, Jim, I do want to get on to some of the every single day there is something in some way startling out of America and American politics, and just we saw in the last 24 hours or so, President Trump announcing the use and the development of Guantanamo Bay, the very well notorious detention facility at Guantanamo Bay, to hold 30,000 or so migrants who are deemed to be criminal, dangerous. Pretty startling to hear that. What were your thoughts?
Well, it's amazing to be able to focus on just one thing. Every day there's a fire hose of directives and new policies coming out. And so this just got lost in the hubbub of yesterday. But when you think about it on a practical basis, 30,000 bed facility, does that mean there's 30,000 migrants loose in the United States prowling around? Is that really true? Did we need something that big? And so I think people are beginning to look at the practicalities here. That's a pretty big facility in a very small military base there on Cuba. And so there's some practicality problems here too. But it's something that we are seeing constantly now, where as we look at these directives and you think about them, you wonder if these have been very well thought through by those signing them.
Yeah, I mean, 30,000, as you say, that's a big number, but the president is committed on the face of it to send 11 million migrants out of the country and
That's
deport
right.
them. Now we're here talking about 30,000 migrants deemed to be criminals and deemed to be dangerous. Begs the question, how do you identify, capture these people? Who do you choose who to send? Different people obviously fall into different categories.
Yes, and that's just a major problem. If you talk to the authorities here, they will say, well, we have lists of people that we feel are dangerous, or we're going through all the jails. And if there are in those jails illegals, as they call them, aliens who have broken the laws, they'll be put on a plane and sent to Guantanamo.
Mm.
So so they feel they can go and identify those that are most dangerous. But what we know and we've seen through history is these sweeps of people. Of course, you pull up into those sweeps people who are innocent. You're splitting up families. You're doing all kinds of things that make this not humane at a minimum. And so now you've got this 30,000 bed facility in Guantanamo, which is the icing on the cake in terms of something that is going to be chaotic and is going to hurt the innocent as well.
Okay. Now, as I said, there's always plenty to talk about. This afternoon, Tulsi Gabbard is facing confirmation hearings on Capitol Hill. She's lined up to be in charge of America's intelligence and security agencies. And I read that she's expected to face some tough questioning on her past political statements and positions on such things as, well, Bashar al-Assad of Syria and Vladimir Putin.
That's right. There are a lot of questions for her, not just from Democrats, but from Republicans too. I think the idea that she'll even be able to get out of the committee that she's appearing before to be, in fact, voted on the floor of the Senate is a question. It could be, given how tight the Democrat-Republican numbers are in that committee, she might not even be able to be voted out of the committee to go further into the process because she'll lose some Republican votes. And if that happens, she's not leaving the committee anytime.
Is that your prediction? Do you think some Republicans will join with Democrats to stop this appointment?
You know, in this town, we don't predict anything anymore. But I'll say yes. My prediction is that she will go down in this in the committee hearing. There's just too many questions about just her competence, not just what she has said about issues, but just her skills and ability to ride atop of 18 various intel agencies that we have here in the United States, to be the boss of that, to be the integrator of that, to bring coherence to that, to bring budget oversight of all of those various intel agencies. There's a real question about sheer competence, not just the politics of it, not just what she has said about Assange and other people, but just can't you actually do the job? And that's bipartisan. We all worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, in her time, she's gone from being beloved by the left of American politics, gone to being an absolute Donald Trump devotee. She says she is in the business, or will be in the business, of tackling the politicization of the intelligence agencies. Of course, the fear is she's going to politicize those agencies.
Well, that's exactly right. You know, I've worked with the intel agencies for decades. I've never in my career have I run into a politicization of the intelligence community. They really hold themselves to a very high standard. You just don't see people as squeaky clean as they are. They go through a rigorous investigation. They have to do all kinds of lie detector tests and things like that on an annual basis. These people are not the kind that will politicize intelligence. And so she's going in there looking for a boogeyman that's not there. And so we need competence in terms of making the intelligence community work well and not going around looking for some problem that doesn't exist.
All right. Jim Townsend, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.